You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Adler and Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cantina Cast. My name is Albert Padilla, and you are in the Waystation, your source for Star Wars rumors, television stuff, everything that has to do with news. Today is February 18th, 2024, and we're back. It's been about 2 weeks. I had to let Ed cool down after the Super Bowl. He refused to do a show last week. He was so upset that we had to postpone that. But he's back today with us, back tonight with us, as always. Ed, welcome to the show.
I thought we were going to talk about that.
Oh, sorry. We weren't going to talk about that. No, my bad. I didn't know what else to lead in with, but that was the biggest prevailing headline. We're not going to talk anymore about Super Bowl, though.
I always love, because we chat a little bit before, this whole thing starts. And you're always like, all right, I'll see you in a second. And I always do this. I always, back away from the camera. That's going to do it. Like me backing away from the camera is moving my screen away from where it is.
Yeah. That's cool. I like that. Welcome, man. How are you? It's a -11 from what I understand there. So once again, I just want to apologize up front for making you bear the weather out there just to record this show. I do appreciate it.
-11 Celsius. We're good. All right. That's
no big deal.
It's fine. The river isn't even frozen yet.
It's just a few minutes away from being frozen. Yeah. Hey, before we get into all of our news rumors, I want to say thank you to everybody that's joined us for the live stream tonight. Certainly everyone that's going to be watching this after we're done recording, and especially all of our Patreon members. In particular, a special thanks to our now part of the tribe members. So that's Rob, Mike Borda, Lauren, Dante, Risk, Bayless, Justin, Jackson, Sharkman Dan, Daz, Isabella, Uncle Leon, Josh C, Jacob, and Reader Reborn. And to our Delusions of Grandeur members, thank you so much. These are our top tier members, Rod, CJ, Alex, Steven, and Daz. If you are interested in Patreon, you can head up to cantinacast.com/Patreon. Sign up there for as little as $2 and enjoy an entire back catalog of episodes that we've done over the years. And also, don't forget to subscribe. You can head out to cantinacast.com/YouTube or youtube.com/cantinacast if you'd rather go that way. But please subscribe, and comment in the sections down here. We'll throw up any comments and questions that you might have during the live feed tonight as well. And then one last thing I want to say. I just want to say happy birthday to my younger sister, who has been with me on my Star Wars journey ever since Empire Strikes Back came out. So she's about as big a fan as I am, although she's a bigger Lord of the Rings fan than Star Wars. I probably pushed her out of the Star Wars fandom a little bit there, but happy birthday, Cynthia. Love you. Okay, let's get into this. Let's talk about some of the stuff. And we're going to start with the Phantom Menace. This is the 25th anniversary. So if you were living under a rock here over the last week or so, you know that we got this officially announced. So this is the 25th anniversary poster that was released. In addition to that, the Phantom Menace is coming back to theaters on May 3rd. Now, at least as of right now, as of tonight, and Ed and I were looking before we came on the air, still don't have a definitive list of which cities are going to be hosting this event. I'm going to call it event because we don't know any more details other than the show's coming back. But it does sound like it is coming, and it is, I found this out too, it is only going to be in the US again as of right now, so no international showings yet. But Ed, I know we're going to probably spend a little bit of time just talking about the Phantom Menace in general, but how excited are you to see this coming back into the theaters?
Well, considering I live in Winnipeg, I'm mildly excited because maybe I don't get to see this. I've just taken for granted that I was going to see this. Oh, of course it's going to come here. It's Disney. When does Disney not love to make money? And then you brought up the whole Raiders of the Lost Ark when they did their anniversary. Was it December?
Yeah, it was. It was towards the end of last year at some point, November, I think, or whenever it was. But yeah.
Okay. And they didn't release it everywhere, and it was a very limited release. Even though everyone was like, "Oh, of course, I've never seen Raiders in theater. I'd love to see Raiders in theater. I didn't even know it was in theaters, and I didn't get that chance." I was lucky enough. I think it was 2012 when they released a 3D version of Episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've talked about this before on the show because we've speculated a lot on the 25th anniversary of the Phantom Menace and whether they're gonna drop it, and of course they are. And of course they've finally made it official. But to me, it just made it look so much better in 3D. And I know we're like at the end of the 3D craze. I don't know the last time you've watched a movie in 3D. I'm so thankful when I see a movie and I can have the option not to watch it in 3D.
Yeah.
But just because with all the green screen, with the Phantom Menace and really the three prequels, just something about the 3D just made everything pop. You know what I mean? And just gave a lot of the scenes depth. There's less, you know, especially when they're, you know, on planets like Coruscant, where it's just clearly there's not even like we're pretending anything is real. This is all CGI. That using the 3D technology kind of helped that, and especially like the pod racing scene, right? I think I'll forever say that, you know, one of the worst things that ever happened to Phantom Menace was The Matrix coming out like 2 months before, and they had such a technological leap that you're like, oh man, if this is what this, you know, Keanu movie that I've never heard of is going to do this, I can't wait to see what George Lucas can do. And it's like, oh,
yeah, no, you're not wrong. I mean, the criticism was there. It felt kind of plasticky. And I think at the time we kind of brushed it off and said, well, it is the first. No one's ever done this. It's being filmed in green screen almost entirely. I don't remember how much it was. 80% of the movie was filmed in front of green screen, or whatever that crazy number was. And so we kind of, you know, gave it a pass, I guess, in some regards. And I would say definitely by now it's gotten better. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it was an event and quite the experience to go see it, and seeing it in the 3D. Like, I didn't get a chance to see it in 3D, but I think for the most part, you probably had a better experience than a lot of people did, because you're absolutely 100% right. Now watching that 3D version, again, just the depth, the subtleties that they added to that, just kind of flesh everything out. That gives it more vibrance. It gives it some of the life that I think was lacking in the original release because of the green screen effect, because the actors were new to just sitting there looking at nothing and pretending, right? That craft has come so far away through not only the technical advancements, but also through the craft of the actors. Right? Actors these days have a better experience. They're actually being brought up and taught and learn how to deal with that now, where at the time they didn't. So this is going to be something that probably sells out within minutes, just similar to what happened with Raiders of the Lost Ark. And it's unfortunate too, because, you know, the entire Raiders, when that was launched, I kept thinking, okay, surely by now, 2 days later, when people are still, you know, clamoring for tickets, they would extend this and show it in more, you know, theaters and broaden that net, give that more visibility to everybody. And that really technically never happened. I'd be surprised if they didn't do this one. Again, I don't know, you know, it says it's a limited release. Raiders was like, I don't know, 13 theaters or something like that across the US. It was pretty low. You know, if they come out and say it's a limited release and there's 40 cities, still doesn't feel like everybody has access, but it certainly feels better than, you know, 10 or 13. So we don't know what that number is going to be. In addition to the cities that are announced, we still have to take a look at how many theaters, because, you know, New York's got a lot of theaters. Austin has a lot of theaters, right? A lot of different companies too. So all of that's going to figure into, you know, just how available this is going to be for a lot of folks. I would hate to think that some people are going to be left out and not be able to experience the Phantom Menace in the theater, because a lot of folks haven't. We got to remember, a lot of people now, a lot of kids these days love the Phantom Menace, but they've actually never gone and seen it in a theater.
Or they're just like super young, right? I think like the second movie, Attack the Clones, my brother, when I brought him to see it, I think that might have been one of his first movies he'd ever seen in the theater. So I don't know if, like, you know, for him being an adult to go see that would be a much more visceral experience than, you know, than when he was a, you know, little kid, like, oh my God, like it's lightsabers on the big screen.
Right.
So yeah, it's kind of weird. And you think about, like, you know, they just went through this writer strike and the actor strike, and like they didn't do well with a lot of movies in the theaters. You think of the losses they took on the Marvels movie. I don't think Ant-Man did very well in theaters, and Disney, I don't know, they might be like, hey guys, maybe give us money from Star Wars. Remember the thing you didn't like, but now you like it? Here it is.
You spent a lot of money on it too. So 80s kid from the 90s is with us tonight, said, I saw the 3D version. So there you go. Another person saw that. One Up versus CPU says, I think they should redo the CGI on it.
No more redoing. No, we've done that before. No.
I know that's kind of it's like a bad thing for them to do these days. Let's see. Jonesy's with us. Jonesy, what's up, man? He says, at least they fixed the Yoda puppet and then fixed the digital version as well. Yeah, I don't think we're going to get the original cut. I think we're going to get the digital stuff. So nothing there. He also says, I imagine this will be widespread as Return of the Jedi though, right? Yeah, I would imagine so. Like, I don't want it to be Raiders, but it definitely needs to be at least Return of the Jedi. So here's hoping and praying that we're going to get this as a huge amount, a huge release here. Okay, in addition to that, well, let's just talk quickly about the poster, which I think is very stunning. Like, I mean, it seems like just a variant. It almost seems like, I don't mean this negatively, but it almost feels like a fan poster in some regards because it's not the original. But this poster, holy crap, is amazing. And there's actually an article. Matt Ferguson is the artist. If you got to StarWars.com, there's an article that kind of talks about his decision process and what he went through to kind of set everything up, frame it, who he wanted to be kind of the focus and all that. It's a great article. It's on StarWars.com. Like I said, if you get a chance, please go take a look at it and read it. And he's just a fan like every one of us. He was just trying to think about, okay, what were some of the things that stood out to me? One, to have Darth Maul, he's got the eyes, the Darth Maul eyes that we got from Star Wars Rebels, right? It's got that very, very bright kind of fiery sun looking eye that was prevalent in Star Wars Rebels for Darth Maul. And then having, Queen Amidala, she was kind of a side figure in the original poster. She was just kind of off to the side. And here he's got her frame.
Big head, though. Big head in the original.
Big cheekbones. And, and then, you've got Obi-Wan and you've got Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn back to back, and then off in the very distance, you have tiny, tiny, tiny little Anakin Skywalker, which I think is appropriate. Like there's, we've still got 2 movies after this. And so I think that's fine. Like the focus is really all of this, in addition to Anakin Skywalker, but he's such a good character in this movie. So you don't really want him kind of, up in front. We all know now, 25 years later, the whole story. So not nearly as important to stick him up front and center like they did with the original poster.
Yeah, like on my computer, I guess I can't share my screen, but on my computer, I've just got like the Google images because I was like, what does the old poster look like compared to this one? And it's like, yeah, like I don't know if you feel bad for Jake Lloyd or, because he doesn't like being in the spotlight. Good that he's not, because he's like front and center in the original poster.
Yeah.
And you've got, like Liam Neeson's big giant head there and Queen Amidala's big giant head there. And what's his name? Oh, I guess it's Jar Jar.
Jar Jar's in the far right hand corner there.
No, but like in the new one, the 25th anniversary, did they take Jar Jar?
No, he's not in there.
Oh no,
he's not in there. He's not in there. Yeah, and I don't remember reading anything. There was anything malicious about that. I think he was just really trying to. I mean, again, like even the R2D2 and C3PO, as blasphemous as that may sound, they're not included in this poster as well. At least I don't remember seeing them in there. Let me go back now before I stick my foot in my mouth.
No, I don't see them either. I did read somewhere though, like they weren't even in the original post, like the original Star Wars poster from A New Hope. They like added them later because they're like, oh right, people love these little droids, the Type A poster, whatever they call it. So they just kind of threw them in there.
We'll pencil them in there somewhere. There we go. There's some room there. You got the Naboo ship. I mean, at the same time, they were trying not to reveal too much. I still like the original poster. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's brilliant, and I loved everything about it at the time. I mean, you saw that, and you couldn't help but get excited. But I do really, really like this Matt Ferguson version.
I think I like the new one better. I think I do.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have the Google images still there because they have the poster for the Star Wars Episode 1 3D, and that looks like the worst thing. That looks like somebody did that in
Wasn't that just like the ship or something? One of the ships?
No, it looks like somebody like this their first day at Photoshop class, and they just stuck a bunch of images together, and it was like Episode 1 3D.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember this poster. Yeah,
don't judge the 3D movie by the 3D poster.
I don't know who did this poster, so no shade on them. But yeah, you're right. It does look like
I'm going to give them lots of shade.
Okay, that's why you're here. That is why you are here. Canadian shade. Look at that. 80 cents says I agree with Ed. This poster is probably kind of lame. I mean, there's not a lot going on here, and I guess I don't know, was it in 3D? Did they give it like a 3D effect at least?
I think that's what they're trying to do, right? With with what's in Darth Maul's lightsaber sticking out there
in Photoshop. I mean, like, is it like one of those optical illusions where if we actually saw the poster,
the red and blue glasses, and
it looks more like the Nintendo 64 cover. Oh man, here we go. So yeah, that's not the best poster. Hey, but they were in a rough time and they were about to get bought out, so maybe that's why that happened. So, but yeah, great stuff there on the Phantom Menace. And then on top of all that, last week we also had this, which this is Empire Magazine. Okay, they're a UK based magazine, and they're one of the, I would say, top 3 groups or top 3 magazines, media companies that get exclusives. Vanity Fair is another one. Entertainment Weekly is another one. They get their fair share of exclusives and breaks and all that from time to time. And so like last Tuesday, so February 8th, I think this was, maybe it was Monday, I forget now. They released this little teaser image. It said, "Hello there." And the internet went freaking bonkers about what this possibly could be. Now, I will say this, given the fact that the week before there were rumors and people were asking Ewan McGregor about whether or not he'd be interested in coming back for a season 2 of Kenobi, right? He was on the press junket, was going around, people kept asking him, and he kept repeating the same answer, was basically like, "Hey, call me. I'd be totally down with it, but no one's called me yet." And then you get this, and it was real easy for us as human beings to kind of couple these things together and go, holy crap, we're getting a season 2 of Kenobi series. And that's not actually what turned out to be. It actually turned out to be some exclusive covers and celebrating the anniversary of the Phantom Menace. But my goodness, if you go read this thread out here, it's absolutely bonkers what people were thinking. And then the fallout afterwards on social media platforms was just as hilarious. People lost their whole freaking minds about, hey, we were led on and we couldn't believe this. And it's headcanon. It's what you do to yourself.
This reminds me of a couple years ago, McDonald's, at least in Canada, they were like teasing, like something's coming back. And everyone's like, is it McPizza? And everyone is like, McPizza, 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 McPizza. And McDonald's was like, no, they had to finally say, it's not McPizza. No. It's like, why can't it be McPizza?
Right.
And then people were like, is it the McRib? Because the McRib in Canada hasn't been here in 10 years. Like it just was back like last week or 2 weeks ago. But before that hadn't been back in Canada in like 10 years. So then it shifted from, is it McPizza to is it McRib? And it's like, no, it's not that either. And it's like, hey guys, it's spicy nuggets. And everyone's like, what? When was that a thing?
Same. Probably is. Because you get your heart set on it.
Yeah.
I haven't had a McPizza. I don't know that I've ever had it in the US. First off, I had it in the UK back in 2000. That was the first time I saw it. And it was phenomenal. Like it was so good. And never made it to the U.S. As far as I know, it never made it to the U.S.
No, it was in the U.S. We actually tracked it down. We found when I was on my old radio show, my co-host tracked like the last 2, because you need like a special oven, right? So not a lot. That was the problem why they couldn't bring it back. You needed this special oven. So it was like this one McDonald's in Ohio and this one McDonald's in Florida still had them because they didn't want to get rid of the oven.
There you go. Star Wars news and rumors. That's why you're here. But I actually love that. I can't believe that it actually made it to the U.S. Okay. What they ended up showing, though, is this. So they released these 2 exclusive covers. They've got kind of this light side cover here that's got everybody that we know and love, celebrating the prequels, really. So it wasn't exclusive to just the Phantom Menace, but it was celebrating 25 years of the prequels. And then they had the dark side version as well. So you got characters in there from episode 1, 2, and 3 as well. So these were great covers. Like I really enjoyed this. And on top of that, not only that, but they had a lot of exclusive interviews. There's some great stuff out there with Hayden Christensen. They released a whole segment there with Ian McDiarmid talking about the Emperor. In fact, they even went on to do some posters. I'll come back to that here in a second. Here are the Ian McDiarmid posters, or the covers, I guess, or maybe these are just the pictures that were released on the inside. So you've got a dark side in red, and then I guess maybe a light side in blue, but not. It's the Emperor, but
it's lightning.
It's just lightning. Yeah.
Like that.
There you go. Yeah. Force lightning. Somewhat. But they did this. And then the other thing that we covered was the other photo they did was this little throwback here to the alternate poster for the Phantom Menace, which I think a lot of people still love and say that is the best poster they've done for the Phantom Menace. And it's so simple. There's not a lot to it, but it's absolutely beautiful, gorgeous, and incredibly smart. Whoever, I forget now who did this poster or who came up with the idea, but they did kind of have this little throwback image here of him. Now fast forward to 25 years later.
That Jake Lloyd poster reminds me of like, why do you remember like the machete order of watching Star Wars?
Yeah.
That poster reminds me of why that exists, because you can't just go watch, if you have someone who's never seen Star Wars before, you can't just be like, okay, let's start with episode 1. No, can't do it that way. I don't know with all the sequels and stuff if a machete order still works, but like back in the day, you'd go Star Wars and you go Empire Strikes Back, then you go prequels, then you go Return of the Jedi. That is the correct order to introduce someone to Star Wars.
Yeah, we've talked about this a lot on the main show, and I can't remember where it was recently. We were talking about the machete order, and I don't know that I have a really strong opinion. I think it depends on the audience, like who you're going to show it to. Mm-hmm. There's a difference in showing Star Wars for the first time to a 6-year-old versus someone who's 30 years old, right? Yeah. So there's all that kind of appeals to different people. I want to go back to, or I want to talk about this one though. So this is another cover that was released, and this is the direct to mail cover. So if you're a subscriber to Empire Magazine, this is the cover you got. And I saw this and I thought, holy crap, I got to get it. I actually bought one of these. I had to buy it from the UK from somebody that charged me $75 on eBay, but I absolutely had to have this cover. So I think it comes in next week, and I think I paid like $20 in shipping on top of that just to get it over from the UK, because I'm not a subscriber to Empire Magazine, but it's just basically for anybody that's listening to the audio, it's a collection of what would be the Star Wars action figures just drawn in a lot of great detail, and everybody's on here. It's a great cover, and there's a lot of people that think this is the best one. And you got Jar Jar Binks. I don't know if I can zoom in because I'm on Twitter right now to show this, or X. Now it won't let me. But you can see Jar Jar Binks is standing there. He's right in the middle, and he's sticking out his long tongue at everybody. What do you think about this poster, or this the cover?
That looks pretty cool. I don't know if I want it for $70, but that's...
Hey, I've spent a lot more on a lot less. Let's just say that.
I thought when you were going to explain it, I thought you were going to explain, like, if there's any young viewers, I'm going to explain what a magazine is to you. Right. This is before the internet.
Yeah. Before the internet, the dark times, there used to be things called magazines. So
I was kind of interested in like the other covers. At the top, it's mentioning X-Men 97, Marvel's OG Mutants Return. And that got me thinking, like, is that an Easter egg in itself? Because I was watching somebody talk about the X-Men 97 thing, and they're talking about how this might be a key to the multiverse and whatever. I'm like, is this a hint? Are we going to get the Starjammers, right? Yeah. Cyclops' dad, what was his name? Oh, I forget, whatever. He was the leader of the Starjammers. Is there going to be a Starjammers Star Wars crossover in X-Men 97?
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I think you forgot to put your tinfoil hat on before you let him with that.
Corsair was his name.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Corsair. That's right. Yeah. Tinfoil hats, please. I don't know. Since we've already talked about McPizza, I'm actually looking forward to the 97 the re-release of this. I think it's March 20th.
Something like that. Yeah.
But man, I used to live for that show, that X-Men 97, like every week. Just had to tune in. Loved everything about it. It was riding the wave and the high of the movies that were out. I was really, in love with the movies, and a lot of that was kind of the beginning, the very beginning birth of the cinematic universe as we know it today. Yeah, so
absolutely
excited about that. So good job on Disney for releasing that there. So yeah, I mean, again, these are really great covers. Again, kudos to them for landing a lot of these exclusives and being the one to bring all this new footage and usher in the 25th anniversaries of these movies. So lots there to talk about. Anything else you want to talk about regards to the Phantom Menace or the prequel? And I'm going to assume that we're going to get re-releases of Attack of the Clones, which should be interesting, and certainly Revenge of the Jedi, Revenge of the Sith, which I think is, that's going to be the one I think people are going to be, if they're not releasing it to every theater, they're just throwing money away at that point, because I think that definitely will bring people back in from all kinds of age levels, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was like stunned that they didn't do a 3D version of the other two, right? But I guess that was in the middle of the sale and whatnot, and they decided to pivot another way. But it was just kind of like, well, of course they're gonna do it, right? But then they didn't for the other time. And I just looked it up, like the 3D reissue, which earned an additional 102.7 million. So 102 million in 2012. That's a pretty good couple weeks, I think, for a movie that had been around for 13 years at that point.
Yeah, and it was, no skin off their back. They probably cleaned up some stuff, and they got to do the whole getting it out into the theaters and releasing. But for the most part, what's there to lose, right? It's just free money.
Yeah.
So even if it's a limited run, definitely get those out. Yeah, Jonesy's saying the same thing. Free cash. Just keep releasing it every 5 to 10 years. And it's a moneymaker. Now, there's theaters like here in Austin. We've got Alamo Drafthouse, and I talk about them a lot because I think they're honestly the best movie theater company out there. Even if I'm biased because they started in Austin, but they do release these as movie parties, watch parties, quote-alongs, right? You can go watch all kinds of movies, not just Star Wars, and those are always packed. They always sell out. So there's definitely an audience for that, and there's just something magical about seeing movies in the theater rather than you can have the best sound system at home and the best theater seats at home, the best visual quality at home. But, there's nothing's going to beat sitting there with a bunch of other folks that are just as excited to see that movie with you and just kind of taking in that whole experience all over again for the first time, or the 8th time. Yeah, you're never going to beat that as far as I'm concerned. All right, let's move on to a little bit of romance. And this is we finally got the announcement for the second adult novel. And I say that and people are always like, adult novel, Star Wars adult novel. No, I mean, just like it's the adult novel in terms of like it's for adult readers, right? There's nothing sexy. Although,
I was going to say,
yeah,
like he should have longer hair and no shirt. I think that's how the sexy novels go.
Well, hold that thought, because I've got something for here a little bit later, Ed. So this is the second novel now in phase 3 of the High Republic. And I know a lot of folks we have a lot of our listeners are definitely keeping up with all of the High Republic. They're definitely well invested into phase 3 at this point. Where for anybody that doesn't know, this is set, 150, 200 years before the Phantom Menace. And the Jedi at this time are pretty okay with people having casual relationships, so long as attachments don't form. And what we've got right now happening here is we have these two characters. So we've got Avar Kriss, who's the blonde-haired Jedi on the left-hand side, super powerful Jedi, pure good, pure light. And you've got Elzar Mann, who's on the right, and he's a little bit more of a rogue Jedi in terms of just, he's tapped into the dark side a couple times now.
He's a bad boy Jedi.
What's that?
He's a bad boy Jedi.
He is kind of like the bad boy Jedi of this era. But nonetheless, these guys have had a relationship for years, since they were young kids. And what's happening right now is they've been reunited, and because of a lot of horrible stuff that's going on in their lives, they're going to hook up again. And where this story is going is I think we are getting two characters that are definitely in love with each other. And I think what we're going to see is why, when we get to the era of the Phantom Menace, that relationships and attachments explicitly are absolutely forbidden by the Jedi. I think this is the cautionary tale that gives us that pretense in the episode 1. So it's all very exciting stuff. Of course, the name is called Temptation of the Force, which could be read as the temptation of love, forbidden love, forbidden fruit, that kind of thing. And I just want to quickly read this, and I want to get your thoughts on whether or not you like your romance in Star Wars, or you like your Star Wars in romance. But it says, for over a year, these Avar Kriss and Elzar Mann were kept apart by the Nihil Stormwall. We're not getting into all that is here in just a little bit. But the interesting thing is they're working together to lead a daring mission into Nihil space, which is a subset of space that's run by the bad guys of this era, to liberate the planet of Naboo and show those trapped behind the Stormwall that the Jedi will never abandon them. So the takeaway here is that we're going back to Naboo, which is very smart considering that we're going to be in the midst of celebrating the Phantom Menace. Naboo is going to be on everybody's mind, but we're going to get to go back there as well. So I'm super excited about this. But I don't know, is this something that would pique your interest? Like, how much do you get into? Do you feel like Star Wars needs romance, or do you feel like romance needs Star Wars in any way here?
I mean, I love your theory on this might be like the cautionary tale as to why that rule exists. Like you are the reason we can't have fun anymore. Right. I know I like the romance when it makes sense, right? Like I don't like it when they decide like, oh, we have to have romance, right? So like at the end of like Rise of Skywalker, when Rey and Ben had that kiss, and it was just kind of like,
didn't do it for you,
really? Like I can't remember ever being at a theater where everybody groaned out loud.
Oh, like I like that part.
No, nobody went, oh, everyone was like, really?
Yeah.
But like you look at Han and Leia, right? That's right. Like the backbone of Empire Strikes Back, right?
Sure.
The beginning of Jedi's is their love story.
Yeah, culminating with "I love you and I know," right?
Yeah, right. And they do it twice, right? Mm-hmm. They just flip it for the other movie. You think about I don't know why they never kind of tease like an Anakin, Obi-Wan, Padme kind of love triangle, right? Because if you think of like the end of Revenge of the Sith and he's all mad, like, why are you with her? It almost feels like they wrote that in. Maybe not as like a real love triangle. I always thought in my head, like it would have been great if it was just like misunderstandings. Like Anakin was constantly just reading things the wrong way because he'd never really had been in a real relationship, but they never showed that. Yeah, right. It was almost like I was inferring from, his reaction, but they never really showed it. So if they kind of showed that would have been a nice little, triangle or confused triangle. But yeah, just, or just even Anakin and Padme with the worst written love story in the second movie, but that's the whole, the whole crux of, his falling to the dark side. That is the love. You have to have the love. Just, have it when it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm with you. Like, it is part of Star Wars, whether people want to acknowledge it or not. I think everybody gets on board with Han and Leia. Everything outside of that, I think, depending on your own biasness, it gets kind of hard to get on board. I was fine with Reylos. I'm part of a lot of Reylo groups now. It took a while for me to come around to that, but I really have enjoyed that. Jonesy brings up a good point, man. The fanfic community has more than covered the romance. If anybody you feel like needs to be shipped, the fanfic community has already taken care of that for you. And go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just thinking, whatchamacallit, like the anti-romance would have been like in Rogue One, right? When the planet was blowing up, and Jin and Cassian, instead of like kissing, they just like held each other like friends, because that's what they were. They were never at any point a romantic interest. So like, I feel like a lesser movie would have had them kiss at the end, and they didn't, because that's not what that relationship was.
Yeah. Although I wanted them to kiss, but yes, you're right. You brought up something interesting. The Anakin and Obi-Wan Padme bizarre love triangle there going on. I always interpret that. I think you're right. I think you're spot on. I think that was left open to interpretation. My own interpretation of that was, at no other moment, like, Obi-Wan never really gave Anakin any reason to doubt or to feel like he was impeding on her or trying to take her away. But because he was so seduced by the dark side at that point, and because, like, you make a great point, because he'd never been in a relationship and had always been told he wasn't allowed to, right, for that long period of time during those formative years as a teenager, that by the time he got there, everything was on the table, right? Everything was on the table in terms of his own headcanon and drawing conclusions. And so I think some of that jealousy was spewing into, like, man, I bet you if he's this close and they were conspiring against me, what more is there? And I think that's really is a lot of what's driving them during that battle, in addition to everything else. I'm not saying it's the primary thing, but all of that is definitely headcanon for me, that he was thinking, at least at some level, there could be something here, and he wasn't going to stand for it, kind of thing. Let me go to the comments here. JJ Skywalker's with us. He's talking about One versus CPU. Says this one sounds adult though. Yep, you're right. Temptation of the Force. And he also said people are split down the middle on Elzar. That's a pun. If anybody's read the book, Elzar Mann actually kills someone by splitting them in half that he didn't mean to. It was a total accident. So apologies there. Jonesy says at all the spicy levels. So depending on how spicy you want to get with your Star Wars, head out to any of the fanfics, or listen to One a Hell of a Fanfic, which is a show that Lauren, who's one of our hosts, and Stephanie do. They actually do a podcast where they read fanfic, the spicy fanfic, and they talk about it. So, hey, if that's your thing, plug out to them, man.
I'm gonna write that down. What was it?
One Hell of a Fanfic. Yeah, go look it up. Good stuff from those girls. Okay, let's move on from that. And wait, before we go. So this was my poster.
I love it.
This was the poster that I made. This was originally a poster that I did for the Rising Storm. And at the time I was shipping these two. And so I made this kind of thing, and it said the Rising Storm, and it was by Cavan Scott, which was the writer of the Rising Storm. And then when this book came out and it was announced, The Temptation of the Force, and after we know that these two are going to get together, I just took the same thing and repurposed it. So I just redid the title, Temptation of the Force, and put Tessa Gratton, who's the author of this book. And One Man's Passion, by the way, Elzar Mann is spelled M-A-N-N. So that was a play on One Man's Passion. And this is all great because Tessa Gratton, the writer herself, saw this on Instagram and she put LOL. So the word is she enjoyed it. So yeah, there you go. So if you want
a lightsaber in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
Well, if you look closer, you can't really tell, but I actually did put a lightsaber in there right here above the T. There is one that's kind of hanging off his belt and it's tucked under his shirt. I need to add hers in there at some point, but yeah, this is a continued work in progress, passion project of mine. All right, enough of the sappy romance stuff. Let's get into our final two topics, and this is video game news, which is fun to finally talk about. So Respawn, this is a rumor, nothing official here, but Respawn is rumored to be developing a first-person Star Wars Mandalorian game. Now, We don't have a lot of information on this. Again, it is just a rumor, but the idea, at least from the sources, they're saying that you're going to be able to take control of a Mandalorian. We're not sure what era this is. It could be Mando. It could be just another Mandalorian, or who knows. Set during the time of the Galactic Empire. So we're going back to that era. And the game is going to be focused on mobility and style, which I think mobility, if it's a Mandalorian, jetpack, if it's style, maybe an outlaw, bounty hunter, lots of different weapons, right? Depending, you can take your opponent out or capture your bounty a lot of different ways with style points in some way. That's kind of what I'm thinking. And then the other thing, it says it's going to be very fast paced, and there will be a reward system for players who play in this style. For example, a player's health will mainly regenerate based on successive kills. So similar to what you get a lot of these days with first person shooters, that as long as you are staying out there and, whatever, your health starts to kind of come back up. So I guess your thoughts on, this type of game. I'm not sure. Do you even play any of these types of games like Destiny 2, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 3, 2, whatever? What do you play any of this stuff? What do you think about this?
It makes me feel like they were so unprepared for the success of The Mandalorian. Like, how did this not happen already? Right? I'm just picturing in my head something like Diablo or Diablo. I think Diablo 2 is one I really liked. Or like you're building your armor and stuff like that. So like if you're playing as the knight, you're going around and smashing things, and like you go from like just whatever chainmail to like some super whatever armor. And I'm picturing that in my head canon for like a Mandalorian game where you're going out, you're doing your bounties. You're going picking up these prisoners, and just like the TV show, right? Like Mando starts off with like just kind of whatever armor, and he builds up his suit, and that's kind of what you do in this game. But like, when did Mandalorian come out? 2019. It's been 5 years, guys. Like, how is the video game just coming out now?
Yeah,
they're just like, oh, we should do a game. Like we're going to do a movie. Let's do a game. Like they should have done this. Like as soon, like remember when The Mandalorian came out and it felt like they didn't realize Baby Yoda that Grogu was going to be a hit, and everyone's like, "Oh, can I have some Baby Yoda t-shirts?" And they're like, "Oh, we don't have any."
Yeah, not yet.
We didn't want to spoil it. It's like it's in the first episode. What do you spoil it?
Yeah. I don't think they were probably ill prepared for that, especially given it was the very first TV show, Star Wars television show. But yeah, I mean, this is, and we had Star Wars 1313, which was, going to be, Boba Fett, and you're going to the depths of Coruscant, collecting bounties, right? A lot of that stuff, I think, is now rumored to have made its way into Andor in some ways. Some of that stuff has made its way possibly into The Mandalorian. So, again, in Star Wars, nothing goes to waste. Everything gets repurposed and at some point, or reused at some point. So some of that did kind of fall apart. I mean, that was as close as we ever got to a true Mandalorian kind of game where we've gone around collecting bounties. Never came to fruition. I, for one, am pretty excited about this. Like I said, I think some of the guys are calling out some of the games here, like Titanfall, right? Jonesy threw up a few others out there, Halo, Modern Warfare. I said Destiny 2, which I just started playing Destiny, which thank you so much to Miss Jess Vega for showing me that game and opening my eyes to what an incredible universe that is. But, some game like that where you are kind of in an open world, you're collecting bounties, and there's a big linear story, right? It's, the days of having a first-person shooter just for the run and gun, the twitch of it all is kind of over. I mean, those games still exist, don't get me wrong, and there's definitely a good following for those types of games, but we're in an era now where you get games like this, like Halo and these other ones, where there is a story that's behind it, and there is lots of ways to customize and lots of ways to play your character, and it feels more open world. It feels more sandboxy in that way, and you're almost mixing in elements of a single player role playing game into it, although it's a first person shooter. So that's how I envision it would be. I think it would be a massive hit if they would do that, because we've never really had anything truly like that in Star Wars. And what better character or archetype would than somebody like the Mandalorian, who is arguably right the most formidable threat when it comes to guns, right? Yeah. Weapons are the religion, to quote Mando from the Mandalorian show.
Yeah, and building your different armor and building your different look. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So a lot of great stuff. I hope this comes to come to be. Jonesy also said, how many rumors of Star Wars games do we have now? We've got a lot. I stopped keeping track of them because and it's always been the case, right? I mean, stuff gets rumored, and that's what we're just talking about it. But stuff goes and some stuff falls away, and This seems like this one could have legs, hopefully, if the right people are keeping their eyes and ears open to it. He says, totally disagree. I just want to disagree other players. Okay, that's fine. You just do that. The other thing, I guess, part of news here, again, more on video games, Star Wars Outlaws. So Ubisoft just had their Q3 earnings call, if you will. I'm not even sure that that's really what it's called, but Variety picked this up. So they in that earnings call, there's a quote in here. It says, moving forward, we're gearing up for a very promising lineup for fiscal year 2025, including the upcoming release of Star Wars Outlaws in 2024, which should be a major milestone in the video game industry, especially given the undeniable appeal of this legendary franchise that will be coming for the first time to the open world territory, as well as Assassin's Creed, but I don't care about Assassin's Creed. So they are, I think this is about a year before a lot of us were anticipating. I think we were putting this off as something in 2025. And to see that it's going to be in 2024, I think is pretty exciting. So if you've not had a chance, I think we've covered it on this show. We've covered it on the main show already, but their trailers are out there. There's actual gameplay that you can actually see. This isn't vaporware. We know this is coming out. It's just a matter of when. And this is our first, I think, official kind of confirmation that of a year at least. Now, they could pull a Book of Boba Fett and land this on December 31st and still go, oh, we said 2024 or whatever it is. But I would anticipate it's probably going to be somewhere, summer, fall. I don't think it's going to be anything here in the spring. But have you had a chance to look at Outlaw? What do you think about the game? And, how excited are you about it?
Yeah, I love the idea of it's, when they explore different things that aren't Jedi related. Like, as much as I love the Jedi, it overtakes so much of our Star Wars bandwidth that there's so much more to this universe. And you think of this is almost like doing like a Han Solo thing without having Han Solo, right? We're gonna do the criminal underworld of Star Wars. I'm guessing smuggling is gonna happen. Bosses like what's his name, Jabba, without maybe necessarily doing the Hutts, maybe another crime family, another crime lord, but that kind of thing. But in space, that whole vibe, I love it. I dig it. More of this.
Yeah. It's pretty exciting, and this is not going to let me do it. It's not going to let me show it there full screen, but running the trailer right now. And again, we're not going to rehash. Again, we did a whole show on this. We're not going to rehash everything about it, but it is open world in the sense that you have a ship and you've got land, you've got speeders you can jump on. You're driving around. You've got a lot of customization. You've got a droid. Everything that you would want, I guess, in a Star Wars game, and to be open world in that sense, like truly open world, which depending on who the developer is, that definition varies, right? We've seen some extreme open worlds where you literally can go anywhere and do anything, and then others still feel like you're a little bit more confined. The verdict is still out on whether, where that's going to be with this particular game, but there's no denying that the trailer and the gameplay footage are super exciting. These guys look like they know what they're doing. It's, like you said, it's got everything that you probably want. So excited to see this, and just more excited that we're actually got an official year here of 2024. So,
oh, Ubisoft Paris. I thought it was Ubisoft Winnipeg is just like down the street from me over here.
Oh, where are they?
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, no, these are
oh, can I voice something here? Hold on.
I know. I don't know what you're doing here on this show. Get out of here. Go call somebody up and see how things are doing. The other bit of news in this one is for anybody that's wondering. So Ubisoft announced that they were projected to do $650 million, and they came in at $674 million. I don't know. That's a lot of money. They did better than they thought they were going to do. So if there's anyone wondering about the future of this particular company, if you don't follow them or whatever, they're still doing pretty good. I mean, they're one of the largest out there in terms of how much money they're bringing in. So everything's in good hands right now. It definitely looks like this game is going to make it. And I mean, who doesn't want to play this? So I think that's it, man. That's all we had. It was kind of a lighter week this week, although we had a lot of big news with the Phantom Menace. There's already been some stuff that's coming out here very soon too. Stuff that I didn't get to tonight that we'll table for the next show. So let's see. One last thing. I just want to go to the chat real quick. Jonesy says, if this beats Hunters retail, I'm going to laugh so hard. Hunters is the Nintendo Switch Star Wars game that we've been talking about for almost
forever.
4 or 5 years. Has never come out, but it's still out there somewhere. It's the game that I've played. I've had it in my hands and played it, but as a U.S. citizen, I still can't. It's been released in other countries, but has not been released here.
Wow.
And One Up versus ZPU says, I can't help but think of Dr. Aphra when I see Outlaws. Yeah, there's a lot of synergy there between those two characters. So, Hey, before we get out of here, I just want to say thank you again to everybody that came out for the live show, especially 80s kids from the 90s. Danny, Music Train, Cube Dude, Jonesy made an appearance here. JJ Skywalker came in a little bit later. And I think that might have been everybody. Steph just chimed in. Look at her, trying to get her kudos in here at the very end. Steph, we plugged one hell of a fanfic. Ed wrote it down. He's going to be one of your newer listeners. So you can say thank you to him a little bit later. Again, don't forget, after this, Jonesy and I are going to be breaking down. We do a final hype show for everything that is coming out as far as Star Wars television, movies. Tonight is the final hype show for The Bad Batch Season 3, which premieres this week. So we're going to break down ad nauseum everything that we know, kind of get you up to speed, get you all hyped up for the show, and let you go so that you can truly feel any disappointment on your own. Hey, before we go, any final words, Ed? Anything you want to, any words of advice, wisdom that you want to share with our members?
Yeah, go complain to Disney about this this release and tell it needs to be in more cities. More cities, smaller cities, with NHL teams at least. Or
spoken like a true Canadian.
I just want to see it.
Yeah. All right, guys. We'll see you here in just a few minutes for the weekly show, and if not, we'll be back in 2 weeks for the Waystation.
You're still listening? Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property, and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.